Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review Super Troopers 2. And I'm a fan of the first one. I think it's really funny. It's not a great film, so I wasn't going into this film expecting a great film either. But for the most part, it did what it was supposed to do. It made me laugh. And this film is made by the group Broken Lizard, and it's our five main actors in it. Jay Chandrasekhar, who also directed the film, and Broken Lizard all wrote this together. Steve Lemmy, Paul Soter, Eric Stolhansk, and Kevin Heffernan. These five guys who play our Super Troopers in this film, and in the original film, they all worked together, they wrote the script, and you can tell that it wasn't like a very well cohesive script. It was a group of guys throwing jokes around, and they make people laugh. And this was shot by Joe Collins. He was the cinematographer, and the music was composed by Eagles of Death Metal. So overall, this is a very interesting put together film, and it's also starring Brian Cox as their sergeant or captain, the older gentleman in this group. We have Rob Lowe playing a really goofy Canadian mayor who owns a brothel. Emmanuel Shriquet, who plays a French-Canadian woman who works in the government, and then our group of Mounties, Hayes MacArthur, Tyler Labine, and Will Sasso. Now, there's a lot of characters bouncing around in this film, and honestly, this film is a lot of fun. And I'm going to start there. I laughed a lot during this film, and I laughed hard a lot. There's particular sequences throughout this film that are absolutely hilarious, and they really hit heights of humor. And the chemistry among all these guys, who you can tell they're really good friends, and they have really good back and forth with each other. And this film honestly has a very interesting premise of the idea that they are restructuring the borders of Vermont and Canada. So there's parts of Canada that's going to become Vermont, and all the jokes and all the references that go back and forth between different cultures of Americans versus Canadians, and in terms of making jokes about the metric system and back and forth and stuff like that. And the premise is interesting, and I'll get a little bit more into some other stuff shortly, but in terms of, it's an interesting premise. It has a good pace. This film never feels boring. It keeps going. Each of the members of the cast get highlights in this film of what they get to do. Everybody has something to do in terms of the plot. And when it really comes down to it, this is a really funny film for the most part. And in terms of the negatives, there are complete scenes that just drop dead and just like hit dead air. There's no laughs. And that kind of disappointed me. Some of the jokes, some of the gags just did not work. And in terms of the plot, now I mentioned the premise was interesting and unique, but the actual plot points throughout the film are very reminiscent of the first film. And the film is very cliched from a story standpoint, and that kind of hurts it. And in terms of the actual tone of the film, it can get really mean-spirited, and some of the jokes are just make you feel uncomfortable. And in terms of the actual look of the film, it doesn't look very special. It looks like this could have easily been a TV movie or a made-for-Netflix movie, as in like made for Netflix, and not Netflix got rights to something that was already made and looks like an actual film. So it's pretty low budgeted. It's directed okay by Jay Chandrasekhar, and it's all over the place. It's choppy, but the thing is, this really made me laugh, and that's why I'm going to give this a positive review, and I'm going to give Super Troopers 2 a C+.